Take two, Ronald. Appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
I'm gonna be the contrarian here and say this show sucks.
I want to say sucks.
I mean, Jennifer Aniston, yeah, of course, babe. But other than that, I mean, Courtney Cox, she's not bad.
She's cute. Good looking.
I'm more of like a brunette.
But Courtney Cox in the Bruce Springsteen video, 1984, the best.
Is she that old?
Oh, yeah.
She was in a video in 1984.
She might be 60, pushing 60.
Wow.
Well, Lisa Kudrow was actually, I think, the oldest one. Phoebe?
Yeah.
I think she was actually the oldest actress on that show.
God, actors don't age. They just do not age. What are they doing?
But you know what? You know what's funny is you say that. There was like TMZ, one of those smut magazines. They actually showed Courtney Cox actually went on her Instagram page and showed what she looks like without makeup, without all that stuff on there. And she looks like a 60-year-old woman. Gray hair.
Makes sense.
I believe it.
Wrinkles, all that kind of jazz. And she's like, listen, this is not who I actually am.
Mm-hmm. They have
It's
to
all a figment.
They got to paint a face.
Yeah, it's a figment in your imagination. It's the presentation that we have. I am a normal human being. They're normal human beings.
That's lovely. And welcome back to episode 17 of Backhouse Productions. Our newest guest, Trevor Horn. What's going on?
Is it still morning? No, it's afternoon, fellas. What's happening?
It's always morning when we wake up. It's usually like an 11 o'clock wake-up call.
Yeah, I wish it was still like that. I had a 6 a.m. wake-up call from the little guy.
Oh,
Gosh.
yeah. How is little Hudson doing?
7 months old yesterday, and he's starting to crawl, doing all that kind of stuff. I swear he's going to say a word any day now. So fatherhood's great.
That's awesome.
Absolutely great.
That's awesome. You are going to be a great father. I can already see it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So what an eventful weekend already. Starting with last night with Garces beating BCHS. Thank God. We needed that one.
Well, in more ways than one. I mean, if you look at it, you go back the preseason schedule, the absolute toughest of any Central Section team.
Yep.
Top 5 of any team north of the Grapevine. So that's from Bakersfield all the way to the Oregon border. We're talking about De La Salle, Folsom, St. Francis. Those are the only ones. Sarah from Pat Walsh's team, Sarah and San Mateo. Those are the only schools that had a tougher non-league schedule north of the Grapevine than what Garces had over the first 6 weeks. And then you had in Liberty, a top 50 team. I mean, those were other than Paraclete, all of those losses until Frontier, other than the win over Paraclete, all those losses came to teams that were in the top 50. I think the Frontier loss by 1 2 weeks ago was the biggest eye-opening, the hardest loss, but really kind of a blessing in disguise because it allowed the guys to realize can't look over anybody. We can't think that we're going to beat anybody. And then what you saw last night on the field was the result of them playing the best game. Juju playing the best game that he's played his senior year last night.
Yeah.
2 touchdown receptions, a forced fumble that Nate Wallace picked. So he forced a fumble, but BCHS picked that one up, and then he had the interception on the drive when, BCHS had a chance to take a lead, and Juju went up for it and had just a fantastic game. It was one of those situations, too, where, Coach Kola kind of called them out this week and said, listen, if you want to be the best, you've got to dominate at the high school level if you think you're a college-level player. And he looked right at Juju, and Juju goes, okay, I hear you.
I'll show you.
I will show you what a dominating high school football player looks like. And he was that guy last night. Very proud of him.
It's almost unfortunate, though. You look at the record, and you see 2-6, and you're like, you think okay, this team can't be that good, but you're saying all the great teams that they're playing, all the strength of schedule is.
Los Alamitos, quarterback going to USC, wide receiver going to USC. I mean, that team is stacked number 7 in the state right now. Lincoln, a team that had a running back who decommitted from UCLA, and now he's committed to Georgia.
Stud.
I mean, those are big boy teams. Those are stacked junior college teams.
Yeah.
Like you guys are. And, the boys stood up to it. That Memorial game, it was 7-6 at the half. And then we just ran out of steam in the second half against Memorial. Liberty, I mean, it was 6-0 up until the fourth quarter against the top team in Bakersfield. And our defense stood the test. I mean, obviously, offensively, we couldn't get anything going that night. But, you look at those losses, you're like, man, just on the cusp. 28 guys on roster and hanging.
But that's always been the story, though, with Garces, right? We always schedule harder opponents, and we've always had the same amount of kids on the team. 30 kids have always been the number that we reach, if that. But sometimes I think wouldn't it be nice if we just open up with an easy schedule, go 6-0, And everybody's like,
would it?
Garces is.
Would it?
It would be great.
No. Would it?
I don't know. I
disagree.
It's like what outside people see, right? You see 2-6. But
what is every coach?
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I love the tough schedule. I go into Garces. We played a really tough schedule, and I always had the same thought, like, okay, no one's playing who we're playing right now.
Yeah.
Let me give you both sides of the story and kind of let you guys read in between. It was one of those situations where, did we want to play Los Al's? Did we want to play Lincoln? No, we didn't. Did we have to? Yeah. Because we had two teams, and I won't call out the two schools. We had two teams that pulled out. One of them said, oh, well, we signed a 2-year contract, but we considered that spring COVID year as a contact because the central section said you could kind of call that and then just end a 2-year agreement and then start anew. But we were told both teams had to agree. We didn't agree to it. They did. They scheduled another team. They opened this season beating Ridgeview, I think 42-0. Read between the lines, you can kind of figure out who that is.
Yeah.
And then the other team that we play for a trophy for said, you know what, we think you guys are too good for us. We got to move on. And so those were 2 open games, and this happened in January and March. And for anybody that doesn't understand how we schedule high school football games, you don't do it the spring before a season. No. You do it. I'm working on next year now, and I've been working on next year for the last 2 months, and we're almost finalized with that schedule for next year. Mm-hmm. And it's October. And so we had to scramble to find games, and nobody in town wanted to schedule, which is kind of par for the course over the last 10 years. Couldn't find anybody in the central section. It was Rockland had a chance, but we didn't want to travel all the way up to just north of Sacramento. It was a tough drive to do that. Lincoln said they'd come here. Los Alamitos said they would come here. And so we looked at it, and it goes, there's literally nobody else that would take us. So we had to take on those big boys. Two of the top 15 teams in the state of California came and played at Sam Tobias Field, and we haven't had that since your guys' sophomore year?
Junior year.
Junior year.
Bosco came
That's
here.
right. It was your sophomore year. You guys went down there. Mm-hmm. That was a tough game for you guys.
That was awesome, though.
I mean, it
was so cool.
They do that to any team.
I know.
They would do that to any team.
Can I tell you guys a story? So you guys know I was covering that game. My wife and I were at that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were at that game in Mission Viejo. So we were up there in the press box. We were covering that game because it was that double header.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So BHS.
Right. What was it? It was for
BHS had played it. It was like a honor bowl.
Yeah,
type of situation.
exactly.
So BHS had played Orem out of Utah, and got heat exhaustion. You saw cheerleaders going down because it was so hot that day in Mission Viejo. Mm-hmm. That's where you guys played that game. Obviously, you didn't play Bosco at Bosco. You played it at Mission Viejo where they had I think 3 games.
I don't even think they have a home field, Bosco.
They do now. They do. And it's a very nice stadium.
Yeah.
It's a really nice stadium.
They just got it done.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So BHS, I mean, it was just hot. It was a hot, hot day. And then I remember my wife and I, we had to go back to the hotel and take cold showers just to cool off because it was so hot that day. And then we came back for your game, and it was humid. Mm-hmm. It was humid that night. And it was like I was just sitting up there in the press box, and I felt like I was just copy and pasting. No offense to you guys, but I was copying and pasting the same tweet. It was like St. John Bosco touchdown by so-and-so committed to such and such. Change the score and the time moving forward because, you guys didn't move the ball over the 50-yard line that night. No. I mean, it was tough, but you guys were a very, very, very young team that year.
Trevor, I think we got to the 30 once.
I think so.
We passed the 50 one time.
No, I thought that was when we played them here.
I think it was a block. Oh, that was. Yeah, we got better the next year. We got better next year.
Yeah, and junior. And DJ was the starting quarterback your junior year, where he was backing up Real Mitchell, who went to Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State, and now he's at University of San Diego.
He's bounced around.
Yeah. But. So I mean, it's just one of those situations where you play these big boys, you kind of see where you are. But guys, you guys can both answer this question very easily. What happens after you play a team like St. John Bosco? When you play a team in the Central Section, what happens?
I think after you notice the drop-off.
Oh, for sure.
And the game slows down.
Exactly. Oh,
yeah. Completely slows down for you guys. And I think that's what you're seeing now is that you're seeing Jordan's looking at a hole and taking up the field and going 45 yards instead of kind of, stutter step and worrying about what the pressure is going to be and then making a bad pitch or just making an errant throw. The game slows down and it widens the field for them. And you saw that last night against the Eagles.
Just to clarify, Jordan's the quarterback for Garces.
Jordan Gallegos,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Kid's got some wheels on him, man.
What a great game. I mean, what a great game last night.
Nothing better.
He had that great open field pass to Juju to start off the game on the opening drive for the Rams. And just kept on going. And then RJ Green throwing a halfback pass to Juju. What a great game. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
When you ever see like Garcia's getting to the point like in the next 5 years where
Yes.
we're beating these guys,
Yes.
we're beating these teams.
Yes, I do.
And you see that
wholeheartedly. I feel
you see that going like this.
I do, because what you get is and you guys got Gola and the staff your senior year, and it was a tough run for you guys because you guys are so used to AJ Gass and the way that he ran the program.
Way different.
Yeah, totally different, and it was hard for you guys to kind of catch on that because he was hired late. He wasn't hired till February, so you guys were already into your off-season program. Gass, totally understand why he left. He had to be closer to his wife's parents up in Canada. And so I think it was a tough situation for you guys as seniors that year. But what we're seeing now is these seniors are that freshman class, your senior year. And this is the first group that has been with Gola the whole time. And I think what you're going to see next year is a group that is really has been looked at as eighth graders by Gola, made the decision to come here because of Gola, and you're just going to see more and more kids playing within that system because they're going to be 4-year guys in that system where you guys are only a 1-year guy, a 3-month guys in that system. And I think what you're going to see is so much different, and people don't realize how much time and effort Gola puts into both sides of the ball constantly. I mean, you guys, you're a couple doors down.
Yeah.
And you probably see the light on until 3 o'clock in the morning because that's the kind of guy he is. Light goes out for 2 hours, and he's back up at 6 a.m. doing it all over again.
The one thing I noticed with Goal is just so positive, and like the energy around him. Every time I talk to Goal, I just feel good.
Yep.
I feel good. Like I don't feel down or anything. Like I remember with Gas, like Gas was so different the way he approached things. Like he was like a general.
Yeah, no, I'd be so scared whenever he called me into his office. Like,
oh my gosh,
like
because he was also your dean too.
Yeah.
You know what? And he was so good with this. He'd do these psychology tricks on you.
Oh, yeah, mental games.
Crazy. Just
well, and that's the thing about it. A great high school coach really is a psychology major, if you think, a psychology professor. And you can be one way or you can be the other. And I think that both Gass and Gola are very psychological in everything they do, everything they say, every mannerism that they make. They just do it a little differently.
Everything's calculated, though.
100%. Just like Juju said, he goes, God, when Coach said that Thursday, he goes, if you want to be a Division I guy, you better dominate in high school football. Juju this morning told me, he goes, I knew Gola was saying it straight to my face in front of the whole group. And he responded and was calculated.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, just to bring the response out of your guys, that's really what it is. You get a bunch of guys to agree, like, this is our coach. I want to win for this guy.
Yeah.
That's all you have to – I mean, that's the trick of the game. Do the players want to play for you?
Yeah.
I mean, the X's and O's, they can go as far as you want, but at the end of the day, if the team wants you to be there and they want to play for you, that's the biggest thing.
And the biggest thing, too, is you look at the defense, there's nobody over 215 pounds playing defense, other than when Cotton Bennett comes in as a big, 6'2", 295-pound tackle. They play small, and you guys remember how small those defensive lines were and those front sixes were for the drillers when you guys were playing.
Yes.
I mean, so small when you guys are sophomores and juniors, and you just think about how they're raptors, as Coach Durant likes to call them, and they're just swarming, and they do such a great job. But that comes with buying into a system because you couldn't put that defensive front on another team with another coaching staff and get the same result. I wholeheartedly believe
Without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah. In town, no, because, I mean, even Nixon, his defense is predicated on a big front four and then very strong linebackers, where Gola plays within the system of what you have, and it's such a great thing. And I think those are the two best coaches in town, Brian Nixon and Paul Gola, hands down. And you could see that by how well they play defense week in and week out, too.
Well, yeah, just looking at the Garces Liberty game, I think Gola knows how to play Nixon.
he's been playing him forever.
Yeah, he knows how to play Nixon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
And between BHS Centennial rivalries and the BHS Liberty and now Garces Liberty, yeah, those two have been battling since 2005.
You think those guys ever talk?
I don't know.
They're just like...
I don't think they like each other.
They're just on the other side of town looking over each other, seeing what's going on.
No, I mean, really, I don't think a lot of head coaches actually do really talk to each other all that much.
Yeah.
Unless they were, like, on a staff together beforehand. Like, you'll see, like... Chris Bandy and Christian Johnson. Chris Bandy is Frontier's head coach. Christian Johnson's been Miramonte's head coach for 6 years now. They were together at Ridgeview. They still talk. Cornford and Bandy are still great friends because they worked together at West, and then they were together at Ridgeview, and now that they're not with each other anymore. Actually, Bandy took over for Cornford at Frontier, and Cornford's now at the new high school in Del Oro. they're all friends. You know, those type of situations happen. But I think that if you've never been on a staff together, no, I don't think that you really have a lot of conversations together. Just because, I mean, you're so insulated. You're worrying about your guys week in and week out.
But I mean, just like as crosstown rivals for so long, you got to get an idea of who this guy is, right?
They know who they know who they are. Mm-hmm. I don't want to pull a Dennis Green, but they are who they thought they were.
Yes. Okay, well, I mean, obviously you're very knowledgeable on what all things Garces, but I want to talk a little more about what you were doing before Garces, and this is something that really like wanted me to have you on, was to talk about the B Varsity Live days with that. And I don't know, like you look around town, you see all these different accounts now, and I think the coverage of like high school sports is really good now. But you guys were kind of like the people that started it, really, like, kind of around town to get like sports coverages, the stats, articles, so on. Do you just talk a little bit about that?
I think that when I came in 2014 and I got hired by Zach Ewing and Louis Amestoy, he was a preps guy from 2007 until he took over as sports editor in 2014. And that position, that preps position, opened up when Zach took over for Tony LaCava, who is Gino LaCava's brother. Mm-hmm. When Tony stepped away and Zach took over, they were looking for somebody that could kind of be a multimedia guy that can do a lot of video, that can do writing and all that kind of stuff. And I had that, and it just happened to be at that time in 2014. I was freelancing in Sacramento, and freelance is fun. And, you know, in Sacramento, you get to cover the, basketball state championships. There's a lot of great stuff, great athletes up there. But as a freelancer, no medical, no vacation, no security. You were working on whether or not a company wanted to pay you. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall that the freelance money was going to kind of go away in Sacramento. And I was like, I don't want to get a job outside of journalism at that time, and so I wasn't ready to leave journalism. And then there's a website called Sports Journalism Jobs, and it's a message board, and newspapers and TV stations will put job openings up there. And I knew Zach from state wrestling coverage because he would freelance for the Sacramento Bee, who was one of the companies I was working for. So they wouldn't send anybody down here, so Zach would write for the Bee and send it up, and they'd use his stuff. So I contacted Zach. Personally, I was like, what's going on? Are you leaving Bakersfield? He's like, no, I'm taking over the sports area. He's like, why are you asking? Is this something you're interested in? I was like, yeah, give me the numbers. Tell me what's going on. And he kind of gave me the rundown. I was like, I never thought I would live in Bakersfield. The only time that I ever played a football game in Bakersfield was at Memorial in 1996 as a high school senior. The one year I lived in Clovis, and we were in that Pigskin Classic where it was Buchanan, Clovis West, and Clovis came into town and played. We played at Buchanan. We played Foothill or West? God,
you played a good Foothill team then.
Yeah, it was Foothill
West. That was Joey Porter?
No, he's older than me. He's a couple of years older than me. But it was it was like a 14-6 loss for us. But it was West, BHS, and Foothill against Buchanan, Clovis, and Clovis West. And I actually there was a T-shirt made. It was kind of cool. There was actually a T-shirt made. It was all three logos. And it was called the Pigskin Classic, and I lost it. Or I wore it out or whatnot. And a gentleman by the name of Julio Mercado is a longtime football and tennis coach over at BHS. We were talking, and he walked in one day when I was covering one of their tennis matches. He goes, here you go, Trev. And it was that shirt. But it was the Driller shirt because when they beat West, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Clovis West that night. So I actually have that shirt in our house still. So that's the one memory I had of Bakersfield, of anything. Mm-hmm. Never thought I would ever live here. Living in Fresno for 2 years, you kind of make fun of Bakersfield because you don't know what Bakersfield really is.
Yeah.
And then I take the job. All my buddies are like, oh, did you get a flak jacket? Be careful of the drive-bys and all that kind of stuff. Because there is a hardened community in town, but the rest of the Bakersfield is absolutely phenomenal. So when I took the job in 2014, the reason they hired me is because I could kind of do everything. And when I walked in the door, if you guys remember, you guys were probably, maybe 6th, 7th grade at the time.
2014, yeah.
Yeah. We were doing 3 live games a night on our website, bakersfield.com, when I was at the paper for B Varsity. And we had Vance Palm in our studio downtown doing a red zone channel. So we had, and then I was at a 4th game shooting highlights myself, not doing a live stream, but shooting highlights because I'd be at that game and I'd write a game story. We'd come back and we'd show highlights of the 3 games, and then I'd be at the 4th game. So when we get back in the studio at 11:30 at night, we would have an hour-long post-game show. So not only did viewers be able to switch between those 3 games or sit with Vance and just watch the Red Zone channel, and he would pop up anytime a team was in the red zone, kind of like the NFL Red Zone channel.
NFL Red Zone,
it was phenomenal. absolutely phenomenal. But because of the forward thinking of Lewis and Zach, the sales at the newspaper was not ready for that kind of coverage and that kind of money that was being spent to bring that product in. It wasn't being advertised properly at that time, and so it wasn't making money. And when you're not making money in a business, they're going to say, this is cool.
You got to cut it.
But you got to cut it down until we make some money because we're bleeding right now. And so that's kind of what happened. And so then we bled down. We took away the red zone. We went to one game, and then Lewis left, and we tried to keep that going, and we were pretty successful. Remember, Kenny, Calvin, and I, we covered the game when Peter kicked that game winner. We were up on the top of the press box, so that was a game that I did play-by-play for. Gosh, what a fun night that was.
That was awesome.
You guys remember your guys' senior year? We actually watched the replay of that in the rally before the BHS game your senior year.
Yep.
You guys remember that? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, me and Whitwer, Thompson now, we cut that video up together because I still had the raw copy of it on my hard drive. And so we showed it for you guys, if you guys remember on that
I got
rally.
chills just thinking about that.
That was a great night.
Such a fantastic night. But, with B-Varsity Live, it was just so much fun because we were the cutting edge in the United States in newspaper coverage for high school sports. Nobody was doing the video coverage that we were doing. Nobody was doing a Friday night post-game show. Nobody was doing a Thursday afternoon show where we would bring you guys in and predict football games and bring athletes in and talk to you guys and really kind of get to know who you guys are as people and make you guys feel like professional athletes. I think that we provided that to you. All area, bring you guys in for photo shoots. You guys got the feeling of coming into the studio and getting a photo shoot done, and you get all your pictures in the newspaper. And I think that Mr. Olson, the dean, and the softball coach, we were actually just talking about it yesterday. He's like, man, I remember in high school when I was at West High, it was like you came in, if you were in the paper, you're like, dude, I got ink. I got some ink today. They were writing about me. I got some ink. It feels gone, and it's sad, too, because this is a town that has a junior college football program, does not have a Division I, does not have a 4-year level football program, and I think high school sports will always rule the roost until CSUB, and that'll never change because they'll never bring football back. The only 3 state colleges that have football are Sac State, Fresno State, and San Diego State, and San Jose State. So 4, sorry. But, those state colleges, the Cal State system, they're not going to bring it back because of Title IX and money that goes into building a football program. It's hard to, rebuild that. That's why Fullerton lost their programs. Long Beach, Irvine. That's why they all Pepperdine. That's why Fullerton. They all lost. Sonoma State was one of the top programs. You look at UOP and Stockton, they were a great program up north, but they all lost their way because football costs so much money.
Yeah.
And so Bakersfield really is a high school sports town. And when you don't have a company running the paper, and it has nothing to do with anybody in that newsroom, but it has to do with the company owning the paper for the last 3 years, when you don't care about the community and understand how much high school sports matters here, it does take it away. So, it's sad to see where it is. I love Ron Stapp, and I think he works incredibly hard to get as much information as he does, but he's walking around with both hands tied behind his back sometimes.
Well, what I think is so unique about you is that, you actually enjoy doing it.
I love it.
The amount of time you have to spend to cover 4 games and have a red zone channel, you actually have to be really passionate about watching high school football.
Guys, I can't tell you how many times I had somebody over me at the paper going, dude, you got to cut down your hours. And I go, and do what? and make less coverage?
Yeah.
Do less work? Make the kids in our community feel less important? No, that's not the way that I work. I'm going to do the job until the job is done. Whether or not you pay me overtime or not, and whether or not I'm doing it in the newsroom or I'm writing it at home on my laptop, the job's going to get done one way or the other. I'm not that kind of guy that clocks in 40 hours and goes, oh, my 40 hours are done, I'm out. I've never been that guy. I'll never be that guy.
Never stop working.
So are you trying to take that same approach here at Garces, kind of get the full coverage of all Garces sports, all aspects of it?
Yes. Has my mindset changed a little bit over the last 7 months? Yes. Yeah. I got to spend more time with my wife. I got to spend more time with my son. I don't want him growing up with an absentee dad who's working 80 hours a week. So I am trying to take little moments here and there to spend more time with them. So that way he kind of knows your dad. But I don't think it's taken away with what I'm doing at Garces either. So I'm still out there trying to do everything I can because I know that if the coverage isn't there as a whole, I'm going to give all those athletes, all those student athletes at Garces the best coverage they can. That's why I use that Box Out Sports for the edits. That's why we're very fortunate to have George Ione as a photographer for us. Matt Reynolds does a great job, gets us great photography. I shoot the video. I think we're trying to do as much as we can to really promote Garces Memorial Athletics the best that we can.
I mean, that's awesome, too, because the Central Valley gets ignored so many times. It gets looked over. No one ever really wants to recruit from the Central Valley, but like giving an outlet to these kids and giving them some recognition so guys can see their films, guys can see the coverage of their games. It's awesome.
And it's not just, in the newspaper, it's not just the California and Bakersfield. It's nationwide. It's these companies that aren't locally owned, like the paper was, the California was for 128 years before it was sold in 2019. You saw it in Fresno when you were up at Fresno State. I mean, the Fresno Bee, it used to be thick, and now it's just like a little shell of what it was, and the high school coverage just isn't there anymore because of that, because these companies come in and be like, oh, well, we got to look at the bottom line, and what is the bottom line? Maybe we don't need to do that much coverage, not making enough money. But sometimes it's not about just the dollar signs. It's about what really matters. And if it matters, you figure it out. And then if it has to go digital, then sell digital.
Yeah.
Make more money off the digital if that's where you're going. Don't put the biggest premium on commission for print ad sales for newspapers. Make the digital just as important and sell the website.
That just doesn't make sense. I mean, seriously, who really cares about print anymore? No one's looking at print. I mean, everybody going and like, our generation, I don't think we're ever going to be looking at a newspaper.
No, you're going to be looking
on
at
the
phone.
Your phone. Yes, no one's ever going to be.
I don't pick up the paper anymore. I don't have it delivered because everything that I want, other than the box scores, everything's online. Other than the local box scores, everything's online. But guess what? You can go to Max Preps and find it if the coaches are doing their job properly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, what do? You just hope that, and that's why me being the sports information director at Garces matters, is because I'm able to provide that option for them that if they're not going to get it from the media. And I think that, right now we have great TV coverage between Taylor Schaub and Adrian over 23 and between Greg and Miles over 50. I think we do a great job, and I think Ron does as great of a job as he can as a one-man band in high school sports at the paper. But, it's that added benefit that you guys get it at BC, you got it at Fresno State, that high schools need it too. And I think I'm fortunate to be at Garces, and I hope that they feel fortunate to have me there. I hope.
I mean, dude, I'm just thinking of that Red Zone channel.
Yeah,
that Red Zone channel is probably the coolest thing ever.
Dude, it was so rad. No, literally nobody was doing it. I had buddies
insane.
across the nation going, how are you guys doing it? And I go, great leadership. Louis Hamastoy and Zach Ewing, great leadership, forward thinking. We did something special. And you guys ever see Vance Palm hanging around town? Ask him about it because he loved sitting.
I had no idea he was doing that.
Yeah, he was our Red Zone guy.
Because I know he was a BC commentator forever.
Yeah. And you guys know the name Ryan Holt. He does all the play-by-play for the Condors. He was doing Friday night for us, too.
Really?
He was doing play-by-play on one of those games, too.
Oh, that's so
Zach
cool.
would be at one, Ryan would be at another, and then we had another crew. Mark Heffernan, local PA guy. You'll hear his voice around town. We had full crews. We had directors at each game. We had a play-by-play guy. We had a color guy at every game. And it was just, 3 high school football games from a newspaper doing live streaming.
It's insane.
It is. And
you would think like St. John Bosco would be doing this, and it's coming from Bakersfield. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well,
it's crazy.
But you look at, you would think that maybe like the San Diego News Tribune would be doing it, the LA Times would be doing it, the Orange County Register. You would think that they would be doing it, but they don't.
Yeah.
But that's what also set Zach and I apart, too, is that we weren't just writers. We were multimedia guys. We could get behind a mic and call a game. We could do that kind of stuff. We weren't just doing football. We were live streaming basketball games. Shoot, the weekend I met my wife, I was actually at Garces during the Holiday Hoops Classic doing play-by-play of almost every single game that weekend. I think I did play-by-play with Coach Sharon. You guys know AJ Sharon. AJ was my color guy for like a bunch of those games. It was phenomenal. The amount of work that we did was just out of this world when we were at the paper. And I loved that job, and I never thought I would leave that job. But when I saw that they were like, well, we're going to cut the digital department, I was like, you cut me off at the legs. You're cutting off 50% what I do. I don't know if I could do this. And I sat there and I prayed, and I was like, God, what's going to happen? And then I was doing it. Not a lot of people know this, why I left the paper. It was that reason. It was because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be who I was anymore. And it really upset me, and it really made me sad because I couldn't sit there in the face of this community and know that I could do more, but being handcuffed and saying I couldn't do half of what I do and do what really made me who I was. And that was the digital coverage, that B Varsity Nightly show that I created, where I did the highlights 4 nights a week, showed a full scoreboard. Those are things that just, I created that out of thin air, and it worked for 3.5 years. But it was one of those situations where I was like, gosh, I don't know if I could be here, but I don't know. I don't know what else I would do if I left the paper. And so, I was like, gosh, where is this going to go? And I prayed and sat on it. And then, do you guys remember Keontae Bell?
Yes.
At BHS?
BHS, yeah.
So, Keontae had just this incredible story, and sadly, it hasn't really worked out for him.
I tried to come to BC over the summer.
Yeah, and it really hasn't worked out for him over the last 3 years. But, in that situation at that time, he was a guy who came from a family of, gangbangers. His dad was killed in a drive-by, and living in a foster care system, and he was at South High, and, Coach Mills really knew that Keontae needed something a little different, and he went into a new foster home, and that foster home happened to be in the BHS district, and he just thrived under Gola and that staff at BHS, and he got he's scholar, financially, it's not really a scholarship at the FCS, or are they
FCS?
What is
Fair State?
Fair State. Are they FCS or are they NAIA? I can't remember. Are they D3?
They're D2.
They're D2.
I think they're D2.
So it's one of those things where it's not a scholarship, as you guys know. It's just a lot of financial aid packages. But they got a chance, and he went up there, and he was going to thrive. And then COVID hit, and they sent him home. And it was the worst thing for Keontae. But so going back to that, I was in Gola's office here in the field house under your grandpa's name. And I was just sitting in the office, and the first time I had talked to him since he took the job. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, man, just tell me everything that's going on. And he was just kind of telling me everything that was going on at Garces, and the new film room that we dedicated to your grandpa was starting to get built. And he was just kind of telling me all this stuff. I was like, gosh, man, I think you guys need an SID. He was like,
what, an SID?
Yeah,
what's
Sports
that?
Information Director.
Okay,
that's my job.
Okay,
so that's like,
love that.
You guys have an SID. You guys had one at Fresno State. You had one at BC. There's only like 2 or 3 high schools in California that had it. I was like, God, you guys should really, if you guys really want to take it to that next level, you should do it. You should get an SID, a Sports Information Director. And I, hand to God, was not looking for a job. Was not trying to proposition myself for this. I really was not. I will go to the grave saying this was not a situation where I was trying to find a job. And Gola just looks at me, and he goes, yeah, you. And I go, whoa, dude, no. I'm not sitting here trying to proposition you. I'm trying to write a story on Keontae. He's like, no, dude, that'd be great. And literally all he did was like, wrote it on a little sticky tab, put it on the computer. Was like, I'll talk to Micah, Mrs. Chambers, who was Miss Peck back then.
Yes.
He goes, let me talk to Micah. And I was like, all right, whatever. And literally, end of conversation. And then like a week and a half later, I'm in the newsroom up here on Pegasus in Oildale, where the paper is now. Mm-hmm. And Gola calls me. And he goes, Micah's in. And I go, and I'd forgotten, guys. I was like, in for... He goes, the job, the sports thingy.
The sports director.
That's how he called it, yeah.
So Gola.
It's so Gola. Because his mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour, and it doesn't compute. And he was like, the sports thing, the thing that we talk. And I was like, no, dude, no way. He's like, no, seriously, dude, I talked to her. And she loves that idea. She wants to talk to you. And while we're on the phone, she's calling me. And I was like, she's calling me right now. He's like, pick it up. Pick it up. Yeah. And I was like, literally, and you guys know how Mrs. Chambers is. She's I've already made my decision before I speak, so I'm going to speak very quickly. I'm going to tell you the decision's already been made. You got to jump on this because I'm a fast-charging type of human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's like, let's make it happen. And she goes, how much? And I go,
she's like, give me a number.
She's like, give me a number. And I was like, I was thrown back because I've never been asked that question before professionally. Mm-hmm. I've never been propositioned and said, give me a number. And I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't know what that range was. So they hired Mr. Coleman as their missions director, and they hired Miss Paquette as the media director right around that same time period. They were hired a couple months before me. And I said, what's the window that you hired those two at? And she told me that window, and I'm never going to tell you guys the numbers because I don't talk numbers.
You can say the number, we'll bleep it out. I'm kidding.
I'm not even coming anywhere close to that. She gave me a window, and I went, I could fit into that window. Mm-hmm. And so
that would work.
Got off the phone. My wife and I talked about it. We put our phones away. We really talked about it. And my wife was like, can you leave the paper? And I go, let's play some pros and cons. And we looked at the pros and cons. We looked at the extra money would help us financially. We had just bought a house. The money would help. Mm-hmm. We want to raise a family. At that time, we were still having infertility problems. We wanted to raise a family. We knew we wanted to raise a family. And it just wasn't making, I mean, the paper was almost a hobby to me because of how little I was making there. People don't realize how little you make as a local reporter at a high school. But I love the job so much. My wife is very fortunate to have she's in the medical field. She's an x-ray tech, and they make decent money. And so we were making ends meet, and, things were okay. We were able to purchase a house in the Northwest and all that kind of stuff. But it was just that added security and the job security. And I knew, and she's like, are you going to be happy with the changes at the paper? And I said, that's it. So I called Mrs. Chambers back, and I go, okay, let's sit down. She goes, okay, come in tomorrow. Yep. Or come in Monday or whenever it was, but it was like, come in. And the process was like bang, bang, bang. And then I don't know if you guys remember the day that I came into the field house, and you guys were like, why is he walking around smiling?
I was so confused. I was like, Trevor Horn?
Yeah, and I remember Bucky, because I worked out with Bucky at Car Elite.
Okay.
And I remember Zach just kind of looking at me, and I was smiling at him, and I was like, I thought he knew, but obviously he didn't know in that moment. And we were still waiting for the background check to come in, but I needed to go into campus to do a few things, so I wanted to just pop in and see you guys. Mm-hmm. And you guys were all so confused on why I was there. And then a week later, it was announced, and and it's been a great 3 years. Yeah. It really has. I think the greatest thing about the job that is the biggest difference between working at the paper and working at the school is getting to know you guys as human beings. And I think that was the biggest thing. It was like when Luke broke his hand, that pained me. That sucked, dude. That sucked, dude. And I wouldn't have cared about that kind of stuff at the paper. I'd be like, oh, that stinks. I feel bad for that kid, but like it was like, oh my God, And now I have a relationship, with his little sister, who I see, every single day and doing great things with the girls' tennis program. And it's getting to know you guys as human beings. Let's get to hug you guys after a big win and tell you how great you are, or just having you guys stop, kids stopping by my office just to say hi. I feel like I'm more a part of life, and I think that what I'm doing is making a larger impact on our campus. While, the community is large, our school is small, and I think that I like being able to give a direct impact as much as I can.
I remember one day my senior year, I came in and I went into your office to say hi, and we were talking about the stats and the records and stuff. It was really cool for me just because you were coming in new, Trevor Horn, whatever, be Varsity Live. I thought you're a Liberty guy. And then now we're friends talking in the office.
We always pictured you as the Liberty guy, by the way.
No, you know what's funny though is you say that, but it doesn't. It all pertains to the sport and the season. And if Liberty's doing well in football, everybody else in football thinks that I'm a Liberty guy. When Foothill made that big basketball run to the state championship, everybody thought I was awesome. That was fantastic. Everybody thought I was a Foothill guy. And it's like baseball was like, oh man, you're a Stockdale guy. And it's like Independence's volleyball team under Judy Rexroth was so good when I first got there, and they're like, "Oh, you're an Independence guy," and it's like, I didn't go to school here. Can you hear the background from the football game?
I just like the flies. The flies are good here.
But it was one of those things where it's like, I didn't go to school here. I wasn't raised here. I just have a job to do, and as a newspaper, what sells is and. You go after, you tell the stories of the teams that are doing well. And when a team is going through a postseason, you look at a Foothill team, nobody else was playing any more basketball while they were making that SoCal run and going to the state championship. Nobody in town. McFarland girls were doing it, but there's a difference between Bakersfield City schools and the North Kern County schools.
Yeah, on the outside.
Yeah, well, and it's tough to drive up to McFarland and back in a timely manner. And newspapers aren't sold in McFarland. They're not really sold in Delano. But we still give them coverage because they're still Kern County. But the coverage isn't really getting there as much. And if there's an in-town team that's doing something, we're going to stay in town more than we're going to go out of town.
Exactly.
So I saw every one of those Foothill playoff games. And then I went up to, Sacramento, Golden One Center, and watched them beat Mount Shasta High. For that state title team, and everybody's like, oh, you're a Foothill guy. You just hang out with Damo and Ernie and Wes and all those guys. And I'm like, no, you build a relationship because you spend so much time with them. And so when you guys say, "Oh, you're a Liberty guy," I was an everybody guy. I was, you
just got to be like, I cover winners.
Yeah.
I cover winners.
Yeah, and that's basically what it's. I mean, we'd spread the love during the regular season. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I go and cover, the Shafter-Wasco game because, God, that's such a great rivalry. Probably one of the top 5 rivalries in the state history.
Wasco and Shafter.
Wasco, Shafter. I mean, the old adage is, and I don't totally believe it, but they're like, oh, you can go 1-9 as long as that one win is against the other, whether it's Shafter or Wasco. Yeah. And I mean, it's not true. Those 2 programs are storied, 2 proud head coaches, and they're not going to want to go 1-9. But that game is the one game that matters every year. I think for everybody in the River League and what used to be the SWL when you guys played in, I think if you beat Liberty, there you go.
Yeah.
You did something. But you know what? Nobody's really done that in the last 7 years under Nixon.
Yeah. Has anybody beat them?
No.
They got to be on some crazy win streak.
It's a 25-game win streak, I think, in league right now. I'm trying to think. Gosh, I think Gola did beat him one year. When he was VHS.
They lost to him in playoffs. I mean, in the league, and then they beat him in playoffs.
The next week.
That was crazy.
They lost to him, they got blown out, and then they blew him out.
Yeah.
See, that game kind of made me mad because we could have won league single-handedly that year.
Yeah. What? Yeah, our sophomore year?
If BHS would have beat Liberty that year, we probably would have won league. It would have been some crazy feat that Garces won SWYL, and we just got put in there 2 years ago.
Well, and then you look at it last year, and everybody's like, oh, I hear the chatter. I see the noise from outside. And, after the Frontier loss, they're like, oh, everything's gone down through gas. And I'm like, we went 4-1 in league 3-1 in league last year because we didn't play Frontier because they got COVID.
Yeah.
But I'm like, took second in league.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It was a 1-point loss to Frontier and a 13-0 loss to Liberty. It wasn't like we got blown out. And then you saw what the Rams did last night against BCHS, and you saw what Liberty did to Centennial last night, which makes next week's game even that more kind of poignant to the fact that it was a 41-7 Liberty win over Centennial last night. We lost to Liberty 13-0. What is next week going to look like, knowing that you have to have 3 wins to get into the playoffs now? Mm-hmm. We're 2-6. Stockdale's sitting there struggling in the final game, but you don't want to take it down to senior night to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Last night, and I said it with Coach Finucci on the live stream last night, most important game of the season last night for the Rams. And they did the job, and they did it well, and they dominated. In special teams are special teams. I don't think either team really did anything great in special teams because there was a lot of pooch kicks.
Yeah.
And, no punt was returned. Kickoff returns never. Juju, I think, had the best kickoff return where he returned to 35 yards to the 40. Mm-hmm. But you take special teams out of it. I think both sides of the ball, the Rams did the best. They forced 4 turnovers, recovered 2 turnovers, recovered one of them, 2 interceptions. Held Delgado to really kind of long pass plays. Nathan Perez, who's a great running back, was kind of stifled. I think he only had 58 yards on 17 carries. So the front 6 did a great job. And that's the thing is you look at those games, you go, oh man, what's in store for the next 3 weeks? And then you look at it, you guys know the old saying, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yep.
Yeah.
That Frontier loss was the darkest. And I think that last night was the dawn. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That you go into D2, if we're able to stay in Division 2, if we're able to beat Centennial, really the way that you look at it is you want to win out. You want to be 4-6 going to the playoffs, but you need Frontier to play Liberty well this week. So maybe Frontier jumps us in the Cal Preps rankings, and we're still in that lower tier because you look at Kingsburg and CVC are above us. They're both D3 teams. And okay, let me rewind. So the way it is now is you're a base division school. So you're either base 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mm-hmm. And you can only play in your base division or one higher or one lower. Okay. There's no other way. So if you're D3,
you can only play D2.
You can only play D2, D3, or D4 unless you petition to go up. You cannot petition to go down during the season. You can only petition to go down before the season starts because it doesn't allow teams to tank.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if Garces want to go 1-9 playing Division 5.
Exactly. Well, look what happened to Ridgeview last year. Uh-huh. They went 1-9 and went Division 5, and they made it all the way to the finals.
Yep.
Was that fair?
Probably not.
No. And that's why it changed. But that's why they made the change in February. It says you got to win at least 3 games to make it to the playoffs. Because it used to be, I remember a Buchanan team went 0-10 and went to the playoffs and won their first round and then lost in the quarterfinals. And this was 10 years ago.
1-11.
Yeah, 1-11. 0-10 and went to the playoffs because they went, we play in the track. Give us a chance. And we'd probably be in that same spot right now where, if we were 2-8, we lost, let's just say we lost the next 2 games, we would go 2-8. We would go into the playoffs 2-8.
Yeah.
But you can't do that anymore. So you have to win 3 games. And so that's what it is. So Garces is a base 2.
Okay.
So we can be put in D1.
Like last year?
Yeah, exactly. And it's all based off Cal Prep's rankings. Well, Division I was only 8 teams last year. And so that's why we snuck in at number 7, and we had to play the game against San Joaquin Memorial for the second time with the almost exact same score, off by 1 point. They beat us 35-10 in the regular season during the Holy Bowl, and they beat us 34-10 in the playoffs. I don't know what happened that night. It felt like a deflated game in the playoffs, and it wasn't a Gola-like because Gola very rarely ever loses to the same team twice. That was one of the big things that Zach Ewing was like, if you see Gola playing a team in the playoffs, know that he's going to win if he lost to them in the regular season. Because there was a point where he was like 6-0, 7-0 in that situation. And so I look at our team now, and I go, if we saw Liberty again, what would it look like?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a win. I would never say that kind of stuff. But
don't count them out.
Don't cut them out. And it was the same thing your guys' senior year.
Lost to Frontier.
Lost to Frontier. You beat Frontier in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to it. Same 11 guys on the field, both sides, totally different outcome. Why? You learn from your mistakes and great coaching. And then you guys went up and played a really good Hanford team, and you guys played them incredibly well. Yeah, tough loss. Probably one of the toughest losses I've ever seen. We
should have won that game.
You guys should have won that game.
We should have won that game.
But so that's the thing is you're looking at it right now. So Central Valley Christian, who just beat Kingsburg 28-27 in a battle of 2 7-0 teams last night. Fantastic high school football game. Packed house, kind of like what we had last night. I think that was one of the biggest crowds that we've had.
That was insane.
My director last night, Diana Rodriguez, who directs all of our GMSN football games for us, she called me at 7 o'clock right before I was about to get on the mic to do all the homecoming stuff. She's like, I can't find a parking spot, so I gave her Coach Walker, who's now our assistant AD, gave her number, and I said, Christy, you got to find her a parking spot by the pool so she can get in because she can't find a parking spot on the street. It was insane.
Yeah.
In the middle of the JV game, I was turning people away out of the parking lot. I'm like, you got to go park up in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm surprised your dad wasn't selling it for $30 a pop.
Oh my gosh,
right?
we could have.
When I lived in Boise, and I was living 6 blocks away from Boise State, from Broncos Stadium, our neighbors used to sell their driveways.
Oh yeah, that's common.
And then what we would do is we would just let all of our friends, because we had a long driveway at our house, because we were only 6 blocks away. We had a long driveway. All of our friends would just park at our house. We'd have a nice cup of coffee and some hot cocoa, and then we'd walk to the game.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
That's what he did last night. He parked right behind my car and just no big deal.
Yeah, and so we wouldn't charge our friends, but they would come and park in our driveway, and then we'd have some snacks, and then go to the game and have some fun.
Okay, so they don't even call it the Mission Bowl though.
No,
it's not even the Mission Bowl anymore.
Well, we couldn't do it. We couldn't call it the Mission Bowl because it was homecoming. You can't take the title of homecoming away, but Mission Bank was the title sponsor for last night's game.
So it was still technically the Mission Bowl.
It technically was the Mission Bowl because Mission Bank was the title sponsor and provided Garces Memorial with some advertising money.
But there's no Mission Bowl shirts.
There wasn't any Mission Bowl because we couldn't, because we told them, we're like, yes, we're playing BCHS, and yes, that you guys want it, but we can't do that to homecoming because of what homecoming is.
I thought the Mission Bowl was just completely done with.
That's what I thought.
Well, it almost was because after you guys graduated, Big Hill Christian chose not to play us.
Yeah.
And so it was like this whole thing. And obviously that season never happened in the fall because of COVID. And then when we thought we were going to get a winter schedule, they had still said no. And then we went to the 5-game spring schedule, and the current high school district said we only want to play within ourselves during this COVID year to stop the spread.
Yeah, that did something.
Yeah, so our hands were kind of tied, and that's why we played Sierra Canyon. That's why we played Paraclete. That's why we played St. Francis. Tulare Union, thankfully, was able to come down here and play, and then finally, Bakersfield Christian, we finally talked about, like, guys, we can't play anybody else. Let's just play each other. We're not going to find a fifth game if we don't do this. And they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
And rolled them.
And 58-12.
And rolled them.
Aiden actually came over and sat with me for a couple minutes right before the third quarter last night. Aiden Meek.
Yeah.
Who, guys, that guy, dude.
He's a big
well,
guy.
And just think about him your senior year and then think about him the year after that, his senior year, and how much of a change he made. Like, he was that one guy who was jumping the fence during COVID and working out in the field every day, just getting better. And, I mean, he was a self-made Division I football player because he realized I'm big and I'm stiff and I need to figure something out. And he started using yoga and doing all that kind of stuff. And now he's
Sac State.
Yeah, now he's playing on the number 2 team in the FCS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great stuff for him. But it's you look at that big old line that we had, and Ian Jernigan just, we were talking to Aiden about it. He's like, God, that was just so much fun. Just, blocking dudes down and watching Ian do his thing, and broke Sheldon Cronin's single game record for the school. So
Was it?
Yeah, against BCHS.
Yeah, 381 yards.
That's ridiculous.
So that year we were doing we had the broadcast. We're on the left hand side of the press box. That year we were on the right hand side, and we realized it's a little too rowdy over here, and a lot of people like to walk up and down, and so we moved it over after that. But that year we were right there, and Coach Engel kept on looking at me, and Dynamite Dan was like, "What's he at now?" And I'm like,
Dynamite Dan.
And I'm like, "What's he at now?" And I was like, 368. And he's like, "What is he at now?" And I 375. He's like, "So what does that mean?" I was like, 6 more yards, and he's got the record. He's like, "All right, one more play." And they drew it up. He got the 6 yards, and they pulled Ian as quickly as possible because they wanted to give Ian that benefit of breaking Sheldon's record. And, that's 2 Division I running backs for Garces have the top 2 rushing totals in school history.
God, I can't believe one of his records got broken. He has so many. Sheldon Croney?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have like 30 in his season touchdowns? Like something stupid.
I think it was like 28 his junior year.
He was so good.
Yeah, when they won the 2012 title.
But that was when they're playing East High and all that. Like that's the difference. So you look back at that.
No, he was on the 2013 team because his senior year was the year that Anton Giovanni took over for Ridgeview, and he went to Ridgeview, and and they went on to play Redlands East Valley in the SoCal Regional Bowl game. But, oh, God, that was a football game, guys.
So he won Valley as a sophomore.
Yeah.
2012 team?
Yeah, he was a sophomore on that team. And then 2013, what they do, they go to the semifinals that year, if I remember. Yeah, and so Sheldon was just the dude. And, and he decided, I'm not sure I want to be at Garces anymore. Some people make that decision. Mm-hmm. Just like LeBron Jackson said, I didn't want to be at Ridgeview. I want to play my senior year at Garces. Decisions a family makes. I don't look one way or the other at them. You make a decision that you think is right for you guys, and you guys move on from that. But yeah, that was a great night, and Hayden's just like, oh my gosh, how great was that? And it's a title. It was his goal. It was like, God, it feels like we just won a championship. The way that everybody's talking, I was like, well, you won the parochial championship because the 2 private schools in town. You won the private school title this year. That happened last night, and that was a good game. Chase Furtado is a great football player for BCHS. Martin, first name's Trent Martin, great defensive player. And then both squib kicks that Nico Fanucchi had last night, he recovered both of them. I mean, that's a great overall football player. Chase Furtado is a great football player. Their quarterback is great O-line play. But the run game, when you have 3 healthy running backs and a running quarterback like Jordan Gallegos, it allows those 3 guys at running back to all play linebacker at a very high – well, R.J. Green and Logan Slayton are linebackers. David is now a safety now. But when you allow those 3 guys to play almost every snap on defense because they're replacing each other on offense because they're all 3 very successful running backs, man, that just makes it for such a complete team with only 28 guys. When you're able to spell them and they're not just running the ball and getting beat up at running back night, they're not the one guy running the ball. It was like 8 carries for R.J., 15 carries for Logan, 16 carries for David. Jordan ran the ball like 15 times. I mean, 47 carries for almost 400 yards.
It's nuts.
It is.
It's nuts.
And you think about it, JP, you were at the game last night. How quick was that game? You take away halftime festivities. I mean, that first half went by in a blink.
It was like it was almost a running clock the entire time.
It was because that's the way both offenses, both offenses were running the ball. I mean, Perez, I think, had 15, 16 carries for BCHS in the first half, and still until they had to throw the ball when we started taking a 2-score, 3-score lead later in the game, and they had to throw the ball a little bit more.
You're telling me they don't spread it around anymore?
They still do, but Bryson Waterman was not in the game last night. He was on crutches, and so you take away your big wide receiver option. I think it changed the dynamic of that team because they couldn't use Waterman who was kind of the do-it-all the first 3 weeks for them as well.
Wow.
Yeah, he's good.
He's very good. I mean, him and his brother were just fantastic for them last year.
They were.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, you said you had some questions for us before.
I do. Joe, I want to ask both of you guys because you guys have two different lives out of high school. So you guys have been out of high school for almost 2.5 years now.
Yep.
Joe, you went the walk-on route at Fresno State, and you were up there for 2 years. I want to ask you, was it tough for you to come back home to BC after 2 years up at Fresno State? Because the only reason I ask you that, because I know that it's tough for a lot of guys who think they're D1, who believe they're D1, but they didn't get that D1 offer or the right amount of money to go D1, or you go a walk-on route and you go and it doesn't work. It's tough for them to stay home and play at BC. JP, I'm going to get to you in a second. But was it a humbling experience, or did you understand it was the right situation for you to come back home after 2 years up at a D1 program like that, to come home and play for the school down the street?
Well, I don't view it as it not working out. I think it was a decision made by myself. I could have been the signal caller this year. I probably right now, looking with Hayner out, would have been the third string, maybe second, and I would have been in the loop.
Yeah, because Logan's right there.
We're all in the same grade. We all came 2020. It was more of a decision of, okay, I need to get film out there. I know I can play. I can play at this level. And it was more of like an opportunity to do something.
Okay.
Because I had the 2 years at Fresno. It was great. Learned a lot of football. Learned so many great coaches that I learned under. I wouldn't take that away. No, yeah, it was great. And now going to BC, it's an opportunity to show what I can do and put some film out there.
Because I'm telling you, I'm a product of the junior college system, and it is there's nothing better. Junior college football is such a great way, because what you do is you have undersized guys, a 6-foot lineman like
6'2".
Come on, 6'2".
6'2".
Are you wearing stilts?
I'm 6'2".
Fair. All right.
No, he's a tall. He's bigger than me.
Okay, Gino's brother.
Oh, that one's personal.
But let me ask you this, JP. Were you humbled going to BC, or did you know it was the right experience for you?
Oh, I knew it was the right experience for me.
Okay.
I knew my senior year. Gola always asked me. He was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I'm going to BC."
Yeah.
I was undersized. I only weighed 260. Same size that I am now, basically. I can't put on weight worth a damn. So I'm 260, 6'2", and I knew I was going to BC, and I loved it. I truly do. I think junior college, like you said, there's nothing like it.
But there are guys who take it as a slap in the face.
Totally.
That they're at home, and you see guys going to Ventura, going to COC, which you guys beat Thursday night. Congratulations, great win for you guys.
Thank you.
Then you get a guy like a Logan Bowers,
who
looked the part in high school, but for some reason, colleges just there weren't the measurables for Logan, because he's not the prototypical linebacker size at 6 foot, 215, 220. He didn't run great 40s at these combines, and sadly, college football recruiting is a copycat, and nobody wants to be the first to offer, because if you're the first and it doesn't work out, you've got egg on your face.
Yes.
And it's such a slap in the face to high school football players that deserve a chance at the Division I football level. That's the way it is. But it is. And I've got buddies that are college and NFL coaches, and they all tell me the same thing. You take a risk being the first. And that's why you see the 1, and then you see 15 within the next couple of weeks of a guy like, we'll take Zach Bucky. It really was a guy that, got a Cornell offer. Brown, right? It was Brown.
Brown was his first.
And then you just saw everybody else come through. It was just like, you never got that one.
Yeah.
You never got that one. And that's the problem, is that, and we're in Bakersfield, so those ones don't come. And so I think that's where Logan was, where they're trying to put him on par with all these other schools, and then nothing really works out, and they kind of see it, and they go, okay, let's take a chance at BC and see what happens. Logan might be an All-American this year.
Yeah.
I don't see how he's not the way he's playing right now. And he's doing things now that are making him a more complete football player. And I am so happy for him, because he deserves it, because of his work ethic. Yeah. We all know he can blitz. We all know that he can penetrate the line of scrimmage and get into the backfield. But what he's doing in coverage now for you guys is making him a complete football player. And it's that's what junior college is there for. It's guys like you, John Paul, who may feel a little bit undersized, but you know that you're not ready for the Division I level. And the JUCO level gives you a chance for 2 to 3 years to make yourself bigger, stronger, and the ability to go off to a 4-year school, which I know you're going to do after this year.
Yeah.
You're going to do it. Whether it's Division I, it doesn't matter. You're going to go somewhere. You're going to play football, and they're going to pay for your college. And that's the most important thing, because mom and dad aren't going to have to do it, because you're going to get financial aid, because you do it well in the classroom, you do it well on the field, and somebody's going to find it. Whether it's like a Ferris State or something like that, it doesn't matter. You're going to get that opportunity. Joe, you're the opposite side, where you decided that you wanted to try out the Division I level. It didn't work out. You knew that you needed to get time on the field. You were tired of not playing. You come to BC, and look what you're doing now. And you're giving yourself the opportunity to be a bounce back, reclaim what is rightfully yours, and you're going to get a chance to go play at a 4-year level. And then you get a guy like Logan who sits there and goes, I know I'm D1, I need to go, and I'm going to get out after 1 year, because he was a qualifier after high school. He's the third option of a guy that goes and balls out and gets more film and is going to get a Division I offer.
Yep.
And then you have the fourth, and that's the guy who wasn't a qualifier out of high school that might have been the best guy on the field, but he wasn't doing it in the classroom. And the junior college level allows that guy to get in the classroom, get his grades better, and figure it out in the classroom when he's already figured it out on the field, and that guy is going to get an offer. And so you have 4 different types of football players at the junior college level, and all 4 are there for a reason. That's why junior college football is so great.
No, it's really a great opportunity for people. But it's like we go back and talk about how the Central Valley gets overlooked when it comes to recruiting. And what JUCO is such a big thing in California. It gives these players an opportunity to showcase it. Like, you're going to play Southern Cal teams. You're going to play COC. If you go to state, you're going to play San Francisco. You're going to play Riverside. Well, you have these chances to play. The best talent in California has to offer for the JUCO level.
The country. Some of the best talent in the country.
Exactly.
I mean, what you guys saw Thursday night was a backup quarterback that was a scholarship player at Georgia Tech a year ago.
Yeah, barely played.
Yeah, at Cheaton, and that's a guy who you guys grew up with here in town, right?
Who, the number 8?
He's originally from Bakersfield.
He is. Yeah, he's a Bakersfield.
He went to
guy.
Sierra Canyon, though.
Yeah. He did. His dad. They moved down to L.A., but his dad's from here. I think he grew up here until he was like 7 or 8. I want to say he played a year or 2 in the Golden Empire before they moved.
Yeah.
But, there's a guy who's like, wow, what happened? And you hope he figures it out and he can get back on the field. Guy that you guys played with, Anthony Marcioni.
Yep.
My buddy's kid. I'll see his dad next month in Cabo. So we have a
That'll be fun.
So my best friend is getting married November 11th in Cabo. I'm officiating the wedding.
That's awesome.
Wait, what?
What?
You're officiating the wedding? What does that mean?
So I'm the one presiding over it. I'm the one marrying them.
Are you serious?
Ordained minister. It's not really a Catholic doctrine. I really shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a situation where my best friend, his best friend from childhood, died in a car accident when we were about 23. So it was best friend's bachelor party night, and they were at home in Ohio, and they went out and did what you do on a bachelor night. He went home and took Danny to bed and put Danny to bed, and it goes, Danny, go to bed, go to sleep, see you in the morning, have a good night, I'm driving home. Tom drives home. Danny gets back in the car going looking for his fiance and gets in a car accident and dies that night. And Tom has not been able to overcome that over the last 20 years. It's been 20 years. It was 20 years last week since Danny died. And he's never been able to overcome that feeling of guilt and remorse from that night, even though he knows it wasn't his fault. He knows he did everything. But the tragedy of Danny's death has hurt him so much that when my wife and I got married in 2016, Tom says, I can't be at your bachelor party. I can't be in your wedding party. I definitely can't be your best man.
Yeah.
He goes, I can't be a part of anybody else's wedding, and I can't be a part of anybody else's bachelor party ever again. But what Tom and I did, we're both big Pearl Jam guys. I think you guys both know how big I am at Pearl Jam. What we did is we did our own bachelor party. Pearl Jam happened to be playing 2 nights in Philadelphia. He lives 45 minutes from Philadelphia.
Oh, that's sick.
We went and stayed at his friend's brownstone in East Philadelphia. We're right on the river.
Oh.
I mean, it was like seriously right out of the scene of Rocky in this neighborhood.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was like railroad tracks, and there was a bar right next to the railroad track, and I swear I was hearing Mickey going, Rocky, come on. I swear it was just in my ear. And we had a great weekend together, just the 2 of us. But he called me when him and his fiance have been together as long as my wife and I have, about 8 years now. They took longer to get married because they have a blended family. He's got 2 kids. She's got 1. It's a lot of those things. When you're in your 40s, you either jump on it right away or you wait until you both are just like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And so they're getting married in Cabo. No, I'm sorry. We're not going to Cabo. We're going to Cancun.
Oh,
God, same
thing.
Same thing.
It's gonna be fun regardless.
So he called me like 5 months ago, and he's like, listen, you can't stand next to me. And I go, I know, dude. I get it. I'll just sit in the crowd. He's like, no. I want you to stand in front of us. And we were on a FaceTime. It was my wife and I and Tom and Lindsay. And he's just like, I can't have you standing next to me, but I don't feel comfortable with you sitting in the crowd after I sat in the crowd at your wedding. Will you officiate the wedding? And how do you say no?
I mean, that's so awesome.
How do you say no?
Yeah,
you don't
so
say
cool.
no.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Yeah, and then was I upset that he's getting married in the middle of what will be the second round of the playoffs? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the timing doesn't work. But
the timing doesn't work, but memories can't wait.
Exactly.
Amen.
I'm not going to miss his wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Rams, and I love everything about Garces, but I'm gone for 4 days.
Yeah.
I'm waking up Thursday morning, flying out of LAX, and we'll be back on Sunday. The biggest thing that I'm going to miss in those 4 days is what?
What second round of playoffs?
Hudson.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be our first time that we're ever going to be away from him overnight, and it's going to be 4 nights, and it's going to kill my wife and I.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, he's going to be, he's going to be with her sister and the kids. And so
Good hands.
He'll be in good hands. It's just going to be tough for us. But it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, that's why we're going to Cancun.
How long did it take you to be an ordained minister to do that? Or to get like an
hour online?
Really?
Well, the thing is, you guys got to realize that I am not that is not going to be the official wedding.
Uh-huh.
The official wedding is going to be at a courthouse in Delaware a week later. We're the ceremony. So I'm a ceremonious thing.
So it's kind of like symbolic a little bit.
It is. It's a destination wedding. It's kind of like okay, Trevor's marrying us, but it's not official. Which
it's not real.
But it doesn't bother me
whatsoever. It's so cool.
I
it's
get
amazing.
to stand up there and tell Tom and Lindsay, you're now married.
So, what are the rules with that? Are you allowed to drink beforehand? Are you you can't be the guy in the middle. Well, I'm curious. If you're going to be the priest or something, do you have to stay sober the entire time, or do you have to?
I stay sober always, Joseph.
Exactly. But I'm just wondering, because you're going to a wedding, you like to have a good time. Weddings are fun.
If that was a situation I would put myself in, no, I would wait until later, and have a toast.
Yeah.
You know who else?
Because that would be a funny scene.
Oh.
It's not going to be like a scene at a wedding Crashers where I'm like the old guy with sunglasses on going, hey, everybody, what's going on? It's not going to be like that.
Yeah. You'll be professional about it, as always.
Yeah. I will. I got the clothes in, and we're wearing flip-flops and linen pants and a linen shirt, and it's a long sleeve, though.
Oh.
But I did get a nice, like tropical floral shirt for afterwards because I'm sorry, I'm getting into shorts.
Oh, yeah.
And Birkenstocks because I don't like wearing flip-flops. It hurts my shins, but Birkenstocks are like wearing shoes. Mm-hmm. So I'll change right after the ceremony is over, and I'll go into the reception wearing something different. I might be sitting in the pool bar area. Who knows? Just hanging out.
Shouldn't be too humid down there at that time of the year. I think.
November should be fine. High will be 80, and there's always some kind of body of water around to jump into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hey, what are we doing right now on time?
108.
108. Okay.
Have we been talking for an hour?
Yeah.
It flies by.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah. No, that's
so
good.
much fun.
Have you been on a podcast before?
Yeah, I've been on podcasts. Ernie Contreras, who's a DJ in town, he has what he calls Off the Fly. I did that when I was at B Varsity.
Okay.
He's now the girls' basketball coach at Foothill.
Okay.
So him and his buddy Rob, they do a podcast. I don't know if they still do it or not. I haven't really been. Fatherhood just makes you just kind of forget
everything outside of the house.
Well, there's been 3 games that I've wanted to see you guys play, but then it's 6 o'clock, and I'm like, well, it's bedtime, and I miss bedtime all the time for work. No offense to you guys, but I'm not missing bedtime to watch a game. Until he's of an age where he can stay up till 9 or 10 o'clock and take in a game. I'm probably not going to go to a game unless my wife's just get out of the house.
There's some live streaming too.
Oh, it's great.
No, and I have, but there's just something different about being there.
Yeah.
And I love being on the field with you guys, and so I love to be able to walk around. I miss seeing you guys. So many different Rams with you guys, and Thomas Lett's still with you guys, right?
Yeah, he's coming back from a hand injury. He just had surgery.
But he's still down there on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah. I saw Dom this week.
Yep.
It'd be nice to see Dom play a little football. Nice to watch you guys play, watch Logan play. So, it's nice to be able to see you guys. Jensen had a sack last night.
I know.
Jensen's stepping up.
Face
he really
mask.
is. He's excited.
Face mask.
No, that was the TFL he had.
No, I thought that was a sack. That was a quarterback. He did that too.
The full black that he wears.
Oh yeah.
Jensen Hallam is. The guy's got so much confidence.
He does.
He's the funniest guy. It's honestly he's inspiring.
tutoring on campus now too.
Yeah.
That's what he.
I don't want to get into what else Jensen was able to do.
We
won't talk about that here, but it's such a smart guy, man. Jensen, I mean, just like he's so jovial, and you don't think that he's so happy-go-lucky. You kind of think that maybe he's a guy that just doesn't care, but that is a smart cookie. And he comes from a great parents. His dad Terry is one of the greatest guys I've ever met in my life. And you see Jensen, and he does, and then that voice, man.
Oh yeah.
Every time I still mess with him to this day. I saw him a couple of weeks ago on campus. I was like, "Give it to me." He's like, "In a world."
Wait, what?
So Jensen's voice sounds like
super deep.
Yeah, it's super deep, and it sounds like a guy that does movie trailers. In a world. And think about that. Just think about the voices that you hear in movie trailers. Jensen has that voice. Like, he could be a voiceover guy for movie trailers because it's so perfect for that
role. I totally see that.
He could be a lot of things, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy at his size playing D-end, I mean, he can do a lot of things.
He can, but I think that it's what's between the ears is what's going to make Jensen Hallam a great human being for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Guys like him, just guys were on the surface, you look at him like, he's just a jokester, and then you don't realize really like what's behind that. Mm-hmm. And he's such a cool guy. I don't think he's really kind of grasped, but it's okay to not be the cool guy. You are who you are, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you two, by the way.
Thank you.
Putting this together. I know you guys have had a lot of fun. I know you guys have a couple of the Rams. I know you guys had Stevie on here, and you've had Dom on the show.
Dom was our first one.
Yeah, and I think that what you guys are doing, you guys are allowing yourselves an avenue to do something outside of football and outside of school, and I give you guys a little bit of creativity, because that's when the world that we're living in right now is like, you guys could be influencers if you wanted to at a point. If you guys were able to get this thing off and running, I think you guys are doing a really good job, and I think it shows the fortitude of the two of you to really kind of think outside the box. So congratulations for getting this thing started. I think it's a great thing for you guys.
Thank you. Well, kind of like in a way, it's kind of a different way of doing it. Like, you wanted to get into journalism, and it's so different now. Like, there's a different route to take into getting into that like world a little bit, and doing this, like kind of starting it. It's kind of interesting how it's kind of like meshes into that.
Yeah,
like asking questions and just getting to know people's stories. And
I firmly believe that there still needs to be some kind of schooling just to kind of, allow you guys to understand voice inflection and kind of like, like media law too. I think that I would always recommend somebody taking a media law class and things like that, so you understand liability and different things of that nature, and kind of working on your influx and and how to tease a story or teasing a show and different things like that. But I think there's so many different ways to find that information. It's not just in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I think videos on YouTube are a great way to watch. Kind of following people on Twitch and what they're doing, and listening to podcasts, kind of understanding what others are doing. There's ways outside of the classroom of doing, but there are a few things that I think everybody that is working in some kind of media conglomeration like this podcast is, it's good to have some institutional knowledge, so you guys are aware that if you call somebody out, you understand you might be held liable for defamation of character for somebody. I know you guys won't do it, but those things do come up. You look at the Alex Jones thing right now. Like, $1 billion is $1 billion, and I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to say which side of it I am on.
But it's happening.
And the $1 billion is very much kind of an imaginary number, because nobody's going to pay out $1 million. Nobody's ever going to be held to $1 million, and no way a guy like Alex Jones is ever going to be able to pay off $1 million. But it's the law setting a precedent for saying you can't say things like that and have a platform of like this, because that's kind of what it is. You've got to be mindful, and it's kind of the golden rule. Do unto others as you want done unto you. Would you want somebody to say that about your deceased child?
Yeah, referring to the Sandy Hook incident.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you want somebody to say that about your family, that you're willing to say on a platform like this? That's the only thing that I worry about when people do this kind of stuff, that they get themselves into trouble. And I know the two of you won't do that, but that would be my only thing. Is there's a new way of finding ways out, and there's good and bad, and there's good and bad with being like what I was, and that was institutionally trained. Mm-hmm. But I was also institutionally trained, But what I got out of journalism, I got more out of my real work experience when I was in college, and that was being the sports editor at the paper there. Coming up through the ranks as an intern at the CBS affiliate. CBS affiliate is like what KBAK is here in town, where they're owned by CBS, and so they show CBS stuff. And Channel 17 is NBC, and so they show NBC. So you call those affiliates. I worked at the CBS affiliate in Boise because I had somebody give a chance on me. But that real work experience, working in TV, I got to go live on air in the morning. I got to, be on the ice when the Idaho Steelheads won the Kelly Cup, which the ECHL was what the Condors used to be, and now they're in the AHL. They won the championship there. Dude, I was on it. I touched the Kelly Cup. It was like those real world experiences, traveling to watching Boise State, covering their games in Hawaii and at Georgia, in Logan, Utah, Corvallis. I went to Fresno State and watched the Bulldogs beat them 27-7 in 2005. I got to go all of those games. And I got real world experience, but I got that because I was in college and I was working at the newspaper and I had an avenue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is experience. And what I take from that is just like doing it. You have to go out and do it. I mean, everybody wait for the perfect time to start something. We kind of just said, screw it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're just going to start something and we're going to learn as we go.
Street smart over book smart. Both are right, but you got to figure out the situation for yourself.
Yeah.
And what works best. And I think what is working best for the two of you guys is giving yourself a chance and having fun and doing this, and I think you guys are doing it the right way, and I'm really proud of the both of you.
Well, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Trevor.
Let's, this has been a really fun talk. It's really interesting listening to you, and just super, you're just super into it. I love that. I love how you're into, sports. You're into football as a journalist, because I feel like people, it's kind of watered down. They're just doing it because it's their job, but, you're actually passionate about it.
I am, yeah.
And that's why I wanted to have you on.
And that was the thing is, when I was working at the paper, I would ask my wife all the time. I was like, honey, do I need to go get another job to help pay the bills a little bit more? She goes, she would look at me and goes, I am envious of you being able to go to work every day and come home happy every day because you love what you do. And I still feel that way 100% at Garces. And so I've been very blessed that over the last 15 years in journalism that I've basically had a hobby that pays my salary.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice life. Is it for everybody? No. Are the hours for everybody? No way. Because the hours that me and LaCava put in are just ungodly. But it's because we care and we love what we do and we find a balance. And I'm finding a balance with home and work right now that I think is really starting to work. And I said I'm not going anywhere this weekend because it was homecoming week and it was so late nights and all that kind of stuff. And then you guys called and I go, honey, I got to go away for about an hour and a half and just do this with JP and Joe. So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
So let's finish with one question here. And this is probably the most important question of the podcast. Someone comes to you and they're like, you can only listen to one song for the rest of your life. What is it?
Oh, we already talked about it, man.
It's not Pearl Jam, right?
It isn't, because Pearl Jam, for me, Pearl Jam is whole as a collective, and I love all their songs equally. It's weird to say that. Pearl Jam has Red Mosquito and a couple offbeat songs, Wash and Footsteps. People don't know those songs, but I know those songs, and I love those songs. My favorite song is The Way You Make Me Feel by Michael Jackson.
All right, we got to Okay, we'll do another Michael Jackson song then. Love that song.
Trevor, I'll be honest with you. Before you came to Garces, I did not like you one bit.
Of course you didn't. And that's fine.
I never made the top 50 players in Bakersfield. I actually tweeted you one time. I was like, love to see it. This is going into my senior year.
Yeah.
I didn't make it. And I was just like, you know what?
Forget this guy.
What a perfect segue. The way you make me feel.
Exactly. And then you came into my life and you made my senior year truly special, and I really thank you for that.
You and your brother and your sister are like nephews and nieces.
It's crazy because I've always called you Uncle Trev.
Yeah.
Uncle Trev.
Thanks, Hatton.
Let's play it here.
Right, thanks, guys.
Well, let's just want to say this. Garces is very special. And you know what? It's one of a kind.
Yep.
It is.
Garces is one of a kind. Turn it up a little bit more as I keep talking. If anybody who doesn't go to Garces, give it a chance. Give it a chance, guys. It's one of a kind. You'll have the best experience of your life.
Go onto our website and check out our shadow days. Come figure it out. See what you want.
FIO, figure it out, boys and girls. We'll see you later.
Yep. Thanks for watching.